When you hear Pennsylvania, what comes to your mind? The busy streets of Philadelphia? Or maybe the scenic beauty of the Appalachian Mountains? But have you ever thought about the small towns tucked away in the corners of Pennsylvania that rarely get talked about? These towns were once thriving, some built around coal, others around factories, even a few that once served as trading hubs. But now, many are struggling with extreme poverty, high unemployment, and rows of empty homes frozen in time. Our first stop is Corry, located in Erie County. This small town of around 6,000 residents is now battling a fragile economy. Back in the day, steel mills and other manufacturing jobs supported local families. But when the factory shut down, many were left with no reliable source of income. The poverty rate here hovers near 30%, more than twice the state average. Household income sits at just about $45,000, and per capita income is around $27,000, leaving many residents able to afford only the basics. Unemployment is high, ranging from 10 to 11%, leaving the younger generation with few options outside of low-wage jobs or leaving town altogether. New Castle shares a similar story with Corry. Once a booming industrial city, now slowly losing its footing. The population is down to around 21,000, lower than it was just a decade ago. It was once home to the largest tin plate mill in the US and Shenango, China, whose ceramic products were even used in the White House. But after deindustrialization hit hard in the 1980s, jobs vanished, and many families fell into poverty. Today, over 26% of residents live below the poverty line, with the average household income just around $40,000. Per capita income is low as well, around $23,000. Homes are cheap, with a median value of $70,000, but that affordability is more a sign of economic decline than prosperity. Next is Beaver Falls in Beaver County, another small town in Pennsylvania left behind by the fall of American industry. With a population of just 8,600, it was once known for steel, metalwork, and glass making. It even had a famous knife factory, Beaver Falls Cutlery, that locals were proud of. But that golden era is long gone, leaving behind rows of empty buildings downtown. Today, nearly 22% of its residents live below the poverty line. The median household income is only about $48,000, well below the state average, and per capita income is just $23,000. Homes are affordable, with a median value around $95,000, but again, it's less about affordability and more about economic hardship. Small and quiet, Lewistown follows the same path as towns like Beaver Falls, a Pennsylvania community once humming with industry, now overshadowed by deepening poverty. By 2025, its population had dropped slightly to about 8,300 residents, and the median household income hovered around $40,179, despite a modest 11% increase from the previous year. Unfortunately, over 32.5% of the population lives below the poverty line, and nearly 41% of residents with disabilities are affected by it. Homes are relatively cheap. The median value is $98,600, But that number says more about economic struggles than opportunity. Sharon Hill, located in Delaware County, feels different from the other small towns we've talked about. It's more densely populated, more urban, but carries the same burden, the ongoing struggle to break free from poverty. With a population of around 5,900, the poverty rate is nearly 24%, double the state average. Many families rely on a median household income of about $68,000, but that figure doesn't tell the full story. Per capita income is only $25,000, enough to get by, but not much more. The median home value is around $163,000, higher than in Lewistown or Beaver Falls. Yet, safety concerns remain a recurring issue for residents. Next is Vandergrift, a small town where history lingers on every street corner. This isn't just a cluster of old homes, it was built on a bold vision. In the late 1800s, a renowned architect designed the town specifically for steel workers, envisioning a humane, livable place with green spaces and orderly city planning. But as industry collapsed, so did the prosperity. Today, only about 5,000 people remain, many living on modest incomes. The Queen Anne-style buildings still stand proudly, but they offer a striking contrast to the economic reality of those who live inside them. Then there's McKees Rocks, often just called the Rocks. Sitting along the Ohio River, it carries a long industrial history, one that often feels more burden than legacy. Once a bustling hub of railroads and factories, today, those echoes of prosperity are just memories. The population now stands at around 5,600, and many families live with incomes well below the state average. Nearly 1/3 of residents live below the poverty line, a number that makes the harsh reality here hard to ignore. Homes sell for just tens of thousands of dollars, cheap on paper, but a stark reflection of a struggling local economy. From the faded rail lines of McKees Rocks, we move to Pittston, a small town in Luzerne County with its own story of rise and decline. Once alive with coal mining and trains rolling through town, that era has long passed. Now, the streets are quieter, and aging buildings serve as reminders of the town's shifting fortunes. Today, Pittston is home to about 7,700 residents, many of whom are fighting to stay afloat. The average household income doesn't even reach $50,000, and about a quarter of the population lives in poverty. Homes are relatively affordable at a median value of around $100,000, but even that tells a story of a labor market that's far from thriving. McKeesport was once a steel city, a place where thousands depended on the constant hum of smokestacks and the clatter of freight trains. But when the mills shut down, so did the city's momentum. The population plunged from tens of thousands to just over 12,000 today. What's left are empty streets, shuttered stores along Fifth Avenue, and a lingering sense of loss. Almost a third of its residents now live below the poverty line, and the median household income is under $32,000. Homes can be bought for less than $70,000, but in McKeesport, low prices aren't opportunity, They're a mirror of economic decline. Uniontown feels like a page torn from history. On one side, traces of past glory, the National Road, classical downtown architecture, and a role in the Underground Railroad. On the other, harsh economic reality, with over a quarter of its residents living below the poverty line. With a population of about 9,300, the median household income is just $35,450, nearly half the state average. Poverty rates hover between 26 and 27%, well above Pennsylvania's norm. Children are the hardest hit. More than half of all kids under age 5 live in poverty. Locals sometimes call Uniontown Fayettnam, a nickname that speaks to the never-ending pressure of social and economic strain, like a war without end. Johnstown is often remembered for the devastating 1889 flood, but the scars didn't stop there. Once steel and coal left, what remained were quiet streets and cheap homes valued more like clearance tags than real estate. Of the roughly 17,000 residents, nearly a third live in poverty. The median household income hovers around $34,000. Enough to survive, rarely enough to move forward. Houses can sell for as low as $40,000, a price that grabs attention, but also underlines how stalled the local economy has become. Once a proud industrial hub along the Delaware River, Chester thrived with factories, shipping docks, and a working-class boom. Now, with a slightly rising population of about 34,000, the industrial legacy has vanished, replaced by deep-seated problems. Almost one-third of residents live below the poverty line. The median household income is just $39,800, barely half the state average. Picture families working long hours, yet still unable to escape poverty. In 2022, the city filed for bankruptcy protection, overwhelmed by debt. Locals say, sometimes no matter how hard you work, you still stay poor. And on top of it all, pollution and the presence of a massive incinerator cast a shadow over everyday life. Bradford might sit tucked away in McKees County, but its story feels familiar. Once an energy powerhouse, it now stands as a symbol of resilience in the face of hardship. With a population of about 7,400, nearly one-third of residents live below the poverty line, a staggering figure for such a small place. The median household income is around $56,300, while property values hover near $76,400. Not a sign of affordability, but a reflection of a stagnant economy. Darby feels like a city running on its last breath, not far from Philadelphia, yet distant in how deeply its struggles run. The population has dipped to about 10,600, and over 30% live under the poverty line. Most households earn around $45,000 a year, well below the state average. Homes are relatively cheap, median value about $102,000, but that number reflects tough realities more than opportunity. Even children aren't spared. Nearly half of kids under 5 live in poverty. Continuing down the path of economically hit towns, Shamokin feels like a place stuck in stillness, still in its hardship. Of its roughly 6,700 residents, over 27% live below the poverty line, even as median household income recently rose to $36,400. Homes are strikingly cheap, a median value of just $57,400. But that low number isn't a bargain. It's a symptom of deeper economic pressure. On Reddit, locals describe it as a bombed-out and depleted post-industrial city,